Here I come.
You know, what does it really take to kickstart an electric vehicle revolution? Well, in the Philippines, the answer turned out to be pretty simple: pain. The kind of daily, hits you in the wallet pain that forces an entire nation to rethink how it gets around. This is the story of how one terrible fuel crisis didn't just cause problems, it actually sparked a massive and pretty unexpected shift to electric. So, picture this. It's early 2026, and drivers across the Philippines are just staring at the gas station signs in disbelief. Prices were surging past 100 pesos a liter. Now that wasn't just a number, it was a huge psychological barrier. It was the breaking point that forced pretty much everyone to take a hard look at the real cost of driving.
And the speed of this thing was just staggering. We're not talking about a slow creep. In just 2 months, prices just exploded. I mean, look at diesel, the lifeblood for all our public transport. It more than doubled. For millions of Filipinos, this wasn't just some inconvenience. It was a full-blown financial crisis every single day. So yeah, this is exactly where our story kicks off, with that intense pain at the pump. This wasn't just another news headline. It was the one event that forced an entire country to seriously reconsider its decades-long love affair with the gas-powered engine.
Now, when you're faced with that kind of crazy financial pressure, you do more than just complain, right? You start doing the math. And suddenly, electric vehicles, or EVs, they weren't just for tech geeks or the super rich anymore. They became a real, practical, and even urgent option for the average driver.
And the math was, well, it was incredibly simple and super compelling. A normal gas car could easily set you back 12,000 pesos a month just on fuel. An electric car, less than half that. We're talking about saving anywhere from 6,000 to 7,500 pesos every single month. When you see savings like that, suddenly the higher sticker price of an EV starts to look a whole lot more manageable.
But you might be wondering, wait, why didn't electricity prices just skyrocket too? Great question. And the answer really comes down to the country's energy mix. Just like the energy secretary pointed out, our power grid doesn't really rely much on diesel, and that meant the fuel for electric cars was pretty much shielded from the exact same crisis that was crippling gasoline cars.
So this wasn't just a handful of people doing some quick math on a napkin. No, this was a huge nationwide shift. And the data? Well, the numbers don't lie. Let's dig into the hard data behind this electric surge.
So get this, even before the worst of the crisis hit in 2026, the signs were already there. In 2025, the Chinese carmaker BYD saw its sales in the Philippines jump by an unbelievable 446%. That tells you the foundation was already being built. The fuel shock was just the gasoline on the fire, so to speak. By the end of 2025, electric vehicles had already grabbed over 7% of the entire auto market. Now, 7% might not sound like a huge number, but in the auto industry, that is a massive milestone. It shows that EVs were moving way beyond a tiny niche and were becoming a mainstream choice.
The momentum was just undeniable. I mean, look at this chart. In just the first 7 months of 2025, more EVs were registered than in the entire year of 2024. This wasn't just a little trend, it was a fundamental change in what people wanted to buy.
But of course, a revolution like this doesn't just pop up out of thin air. It was really built on a foundation of smart government policy and some key companies who saw which way the wind was blowing. So let's take a look at how that groundwork was actually laid.
The government had really been paving the way for years. You had the EV idea law, which basically created the official roadmap for the whole industry. Then you had the big push to modernize public transport, which created a huge, steady demand for electric vehicles. And maybe most important of all, zero taxes on imported EVs, which made them a whole lot more affordable. All these policies together created the perfect environment for the EV market to just take off. And then, of course, you absolutely have to talk about the China factor. The arrival of affordable, really high-quality electric cars from brands like BYD was a complete game changer. They shrank the price gap between a gas car and an electric car so much that the electric calculation we talked about became a realistic option for an average Filipino family, not just a luxury for the rich. Okay, but a revolution is never easy, right? For this EV boom to become a permanent thing, the Philippines still has some pretty big hurdles to clear. Let's be honest about the challenges that are still on the road ahead. The biggest one by far is the charging gap. The number of public stations is growing for sure, but it's still way off from the government's target for 2028. This right here is the source of range anxiety, that fear in the back of your mind of running out of power with nowhere to plug in. It's a huge barrier,
especially if you live outside of the big cities.
And the challenges definitely don't stop there. The upfront cost is still a big hurdle for a lot of people. There are real concerns about how well these batteries hold up in a hot tropical climate. The service network is still playing catch-up, especially in the provinces. And you've also got to think about relying so heavily on one supply chain, and just the general need to educate the public more. It's a complex puzzle to solve for sure.
But despite all those challenges, something fundamental has shifted. This wasn't just a temporary freak out over high gas prices. No, this was a real tipping point.
When you step back and look at it, it was truly a perfect storm. You had supportive government policies, you had the arrival of affordable new technology, and then bam, the massive shock of the fuel crisis. All of these things came together at the exact same time to create a permanent structural change in how the Philippines gets from point A to point B.
And that is the literal definition of a tipping point, isn't it? It's when a whole bunch of small changes finally build up and trigger something big, something irreversible. The 2026 fuel crisis was that final, powerful shove that pushed the Philippines past that point. And honestly, there's no going back.
So, the debate over if the Philippines will go electric, that's over. It's happening. The only real question left is how fast. How quickly can the country build the infrastructure, solve the challenges, and fully, truly embrace its electric future? The race is officially on.
Whoop, whoop. Here I come.